Well, good evening and welcome to Rituals and Remembrance. We will understand it better by and by. I'm going to start by introducing Kevin, Lillian, and Joe Barry Carroll. Then I'm going to give you just a brief statement about the show and why I put this show up. We'll start with Mr. Kevin Cole. Kevin Cole received his BS from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and an MA in art education from the University of Illinois at Urbana and an MFA from Northern Illinois University. Within the last 32 years, he has received 28 grants and fellowships, 66 awards in art, 51 teaching awards, and over 45 public art commissions. On February the 1st of 2022, he received a proclamation from the city of South Fulton proclaiming February the 1st, 2022, Kevin Cole Day. In July of 2021, he received the Working Artist Project Fellowship from the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia in Atlanta. And in April, Mr. Cole received the Art Inspiration Award by the National Society Incorporation for his dedication to student achievements. Earlier in December, Mr. Cole received the 2020 Governor's Award for the Arts and Humanities in the state of Georgia. Earlier in February, he also received the 2020 Brenda and Larry Thompson from the Georgia Museum in Athens, Georgia. And I was there for that. It was an awesome evening. The 2020 Trailblazer Award from Salem Bible Church in Atlanta, and the 2019 Nexus Award from the Atlanta Contemporary Arts Center in Atlanta. His artwork has been featured in more than 475 exhibitions throughout the United States and abroad. Cole's artwork is included in more than 4,000 public, private, and corporate collections throughout the United States and abroad. Public collections include the new National Museum of African American History and Culture at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., the Georgia Museum in Athens, Georgia, and the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, and the William Jefferson Clinton Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. I could go on and on and on. Yale University, the Ogden Museum of Southern Art. As you can see, he's a very accomplished artist and teacher and historian, and he is just a true jewel in the arts community. And his work has also been featured in more than 125 publications. So again, Kevin Cole. Now next we have the very lovely Lillian Blades. Lillian Blades was born in Nassau, Bahamas in 1973 and currently resides in Atlanta. She holds a BFA in painting from the Savannah College of Art and Design and an MFA in painting from Georgia State University. In addition, Lillian has studied at the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in Maine and the Caversham in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Okay. Lillian's works are predominantly mixed media assemblages on wooden panels or wires together to form moving tapestries. They are made with an assortment of materials both found and constructed by her in the studio. Her childhood home of Bahamas, ancestral background of West Africa, and her late mother, who was a seamstress, influenced her art. These influences appear through use of her color palette and objects that evoke memory and history. As a public artist, she enjoys collaborating with other artists and groups on a large-scale assemblage products such as the East Atlanta Library. Her work has also appeared in solo and group exhibitions throughout various galleries in the United States, as well as the Bahamas, Trinidad, Germany, and South Africa. Her public commission include Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and if you ever go to the E-Concourse, you'll see her amazing piece. It's kind of catty, directly across from Radcliffe's piece, but it's a beautiful piece on the E-Concourse. Also the Jeans Young Middle School, State Farm Arena, Georgia Power, and several corporate offices in Midtown Atlanta, excuse me. Her artwork is also in the collection of the Birmingham Museum of Art, Clark Atlanta Museum, and the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. Again, a wonderful treasure, and we're glad to have you here in Atlanta. And last but not least, we have Mr. Joe Barry Carroll, who will moderate this discussion. And I want to read his bio, even though he said it wasn't necessary, but I'd like to highlight all the great people that are in my space that add to this conversation. Joe Barry Carroll is a former NBA All-Star and an artist, a publisher, award-winning author, philanthropist, and wealth advisor. He has authored 4 books, and he's also painted. His paintings have been exhibited at Greater Lafayette Museum of Art, Historic Arkansas Museum, the Hudgens Center for Art and Learning, and Purdue University. The abstract and figurative art has been published in Growing Up, in Words and Images, in my view, from 7 feet, which also includes narratives written by Carroll. His photography appears in Black American Voices, Shared Culture and Values, featuring the Zamora Collection of African Art, of which he is the trustee. Carroll was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and spent his teen years in Denver, Colorado, and he graduated from Purdue University with a degree in economics. He was selected for the NCAA All-American First Team and led the Purdue Boilermakers to the Final Four in 1980. His philanthropy began in 1985 when he established Broadview Foundation to support African American students, communities, and nonprofit organizations. His book sales have funded Georgia Innocence Project, the ATL PBA, WABE, and ACLU, and Repairers of the Breach, and other nonprofit entities. Carroll has also served on nonprofit boards, including the Museum of Contemporary Art and the Atlanta-Fulton County Housing Authority. The Center for Civil and Human Rights and the Atlanta Braves honored Carroll as a Hank Aaron Champion for Justice. He has served on the board of the Museum of Contemporary Art in Atlanta and the Atlanta-Fulton County Housing Authority, and he currently resides in Atlanta. Mr. Joe Barry Carroll.
Well, thank you.
I briefly want to tell you about this particular exhibition, Rituals and Remembrance. We will understand it better by and by. These men and women that were actually, Faith Ringgold and Romeo Bearden are part of this exhibition and are not here, but they're a big part of this conversation. They're having a conversation about relevance, struggle, determination, opportunities, and offering us beauty in the struggle, meaning in the everyday, and never once backing down from confronting the truth. Through evoking rituals and memories through their work, they honor those who came before. This song, You Will Understand It Better by and by Charles Albert Tindley, echoes the injustices and inequalities of the past and present and looks to a better, brighter tomorrow. The show pays homage to our shared histories, illustrating the corruption and cruelties we still face, the progress made, and the changes still yet to come. The people singing this song, We Will Understand It Better by and by, understood segregation, Jim Crow, slavery, lynching, voter restriction, not being seen as a human being, sitting in the black section only, not being able to sit at the lunch counter, not being able to be served at certain establishments, not having access to equal education, going through the colored door only. That's what these artists are doing through their work. We're celebrating our history, our rituals, the joys, the sorrows, families, the ups and downs that make us come together, not only as a black community, but as humanity. This is how we move forward, and that way we will understand it better by and by. I present Kevin Cole and Lillian Blades.
Thank you, September.
You're welcome.
Such a kind introduction. We probably should stop while we're ahead here. Now you got their hopes up. Thank you, Kevin and Lillian, for being here and sharing your work with us. I wanted to jump right in and talk about your work. How would you describe the work you do to someone? Let's say sight unseen. They haven't seen it, and they're like, so what do you do? What kind of work are you doing?
Oh, the quick
There's
rundown.
no wrong answer to this, by the way.
Yeah. You know, I'm still really trying to define it myself, as, you know, so I feel like I'm a painter still. I've started off in painting, and I just got bored with the flat surface. I wanted to push the surface more. I wanted to include things that related to me, related more to my background, like continue a visual language that I feel is rooted in working with your hands. It's the working in tradition, and it's ritual. It has more to do with nurturing your spirit. There's a lot of things I want to talk about in the work that is more than just putting the paint on the canvas. So I'm using the nostalgia, I'm using memory, I'm using things that would trigger you to see beyond just the surface of an abstraction. I feel like an abstract expressionist painter that is taking it to another level texturally and emotionally, and I'm using it as a way to give myself comfort and also those who look at it. It's like a quilt. Quilts are comforting to be under, and I want it to feel comforting to look at. I want it to root me in who I am.
When we spoke earlier, well, it's probably been about 10 years now, you were speaking about it being an opportunity for a link between you and your mother. Mm-hmm. Would you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah.
And how your mother plays into your compositions?
So when I was a student at, I came after SCAD, I came to Georgia State, and Larry Walker was my professor, and he challenged me to make it more personal to myself. And I was painting mother and child images, and because I felt like I found out my mom died in childbirth with me when I was 12. And my whole world changed. My aunt was not my mom is not my aunt. She's my aunt and not my mom as I thought she was. My brother was my cousin, and everything kind of switched up. My
so
uncle was my dad.
So you fall into this history we're all familiar with by ourselves, for ourselves, right?
It's like, I felt like I've been severed in a way, just like Africans came over here and we're severed from Africa, but we still have a connection, but we don't really fully understand the connection. So I feel like I'm making sense of the fragments of information that I know.
And that's where I'm coming to.
What people tell me about, and
right.
So I'm gathering things in a way that would feel like it's a stronger foundation of who I am.
Is it working? All this time later, where are you in the process?
I feel like it feels good to me. I can't really put it in words if it's working or not, but I know I'm using the mirrors now a lot more because I'm working. The mirrors for me is it's a constant, everyday effort in working on myself. And so it's making it today, making it now. Mm-hmm. It's in the moment. And I want to, it's like self-work. Like when I see myself in the work, I want to see myself literally and figuratively in the work. Mm-hmm. So it's paying homage to those who've gone before me and the way how they used the visual tradition, so many ways that it could, in terms of materials, in terms of why they're using it. I feel like I'm continuing that.
And your mother was a seamstress.
Yeah, she was a seamstress. Yeah. And so using the button is about making an effort to make a connection. Mm-hmm. So the button is literally about making a connection. So I use that a lot in the work. And I also use PVC pipes because my dad was a plumber. So I feel like those are the cells of the work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yes, sir.
You've got different pieces here. I don't see the sculptures.
On the other side.
It's on the other side, but I think all of us are familiar with those work. Could you talk to us a little bit about your work? Describe how do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, it's 3 different series of works in here. And I always say that when I look at the work, it's about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And it's about my experience as an artist and educator, but when I talk about it, I say my work stems from several different issues. Number 1, the story my grandfather told me. Mm-hmm. Number 2, the relationship between sight, sound, and color, in reference to music such as jazz. Any music that is prevalent in the African American community is important to me. And this new body of work is about, I received a grant from a fellowship from the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia for the new body of work with the ballot boxes. And when I talk about a story, my grandfather told me, when I graduated from high school, I didn't want to go register to vote. He lived in Terry, Arkansas. And we were sitting there talking, and he was 91 years old, and he walked with a cane, and he said, I said, well, you know, voting, my vote is not going to make a difference. So he sent me to this property that was on, this place was close to his property. And I went there, had this scary feeling. He told me African Americans had been lynched by their neckties on the way to vote. And in 2001, a book came out without sanctions documenting lynching that had took place in Arkansas. And I went to the Legacy Museum and found a marker of a man he told me about that was lynched close to his property. So when I talk about the relationship between sight, sound, and music, this was a part of my Signs of the Time series. An artist formerly known as Prince, then he went back to Prince, I would allow my students to listen to music. And so I started to do a series called Signs of the Times. It was based on the idea of like education, homelessness, AIDS, and families.
Are you speaking here?
I'm just speaking of this piece, and you see the flag is tied into a knot. So when you tie something into a knot, you want to make sure it stays together. Then you have the ribbons and bows, which symbolic to the gifts that we were accepting from South Africa at that time. And you see the silhouette of the family, but then you see the Bible being in the South, you know, the Bible Belt. You know, you think about family prays together. My mom used to say family prays together, stays together. But then you got a school walking sign, which is the school sign, and you see the boy who's looking up at his mother instead of his father. And they're the only ones in the picture that don't have feet. Because at that time, 85% of the kids were coming from public housing. They would go back to public housing. So, and then 70% of the kids came from one-parent homes. So then, if you look at this one, the flag again is in there, but the flag is burnt around the flag, and you see the image of Dr. King and John Lewis trying to cross the bridge at Selma. Mm-hmm. So when you look at those, but then the ballot boxes, they came about. I was reading a book by Ron Walters, entitled "For Freedom is not Enough." Then I started looking in his book. He talked about the idea mainly about voting. So as I started doing my research, I started to ask my friends, ask your parents or grandparents, what was their experience in trying to vote? And I got various stories, like the lady in Alabama said that when she tried to vote, what they did was they asked her how many jelly beans in the jar, you know, as a way to actually register to vote. But then I think it was Ernestine Martin, who lived in Oconee, Florida, said that 3 days before they would try to vote, there would be a series of cross burnings. Okay, then the next day there would be signs that said it's best not to be hanging around here to vote. Then the next day there'll be a series of nooses hanging on their way to vote.
So let me interrupt you if you forgive me. When you say your grandfather, in your statement, it's that your grandfather's statement was profound.
Yes.
What was profound about that for you?
It was just
in your
trying
words?
to realize that what he talked about, he went in depth to say, you know, they would take the tide and wrap them around the rope, you know, and that's the way they would do the noose. And then it's hard to realize that somebody would do you like that on your way. You're just trying to vote, and you notice most elderly people, they dress up to go to vote because they think it's real important. I mean, we take it so for granted, and even now, listen to a lot of the elderly people. They told me, I mean, they would talk to me all day, but there were several men that told me, "Don't mention my name. even now.
But when you say profound, as a young, when you got this message at graduation, what was that? What was the profundity of that? I mean, what did that mean to a little boy, to a young man at that point, that inspires you all these years later to be this being your footprint?
Well, I think it inspired me more that I was using the clothing anyway, and I was using a lot of the ties anyway. But I didn't realize the idea why they kept coming up in the work, and that's when I was in like undergraduate, and deciding to go to Arkansas Pine Bluff, where I had 4 African American males who was doing extremely well as an artist. And
what does that mean when you say extremely well? What was it about
they
what
were,
they were doing?
They were showing their work. They were selling work. Seldom you find here were 4 men at historically black colleges selling artwork and winning the Arkansas. Ernest Davidson won the Governor's Award. Terrence Corbin won the Delta Show, and he was the only second African American to win it in Arkansas. Henry Lynn won the Arkansas Art Competition. He was the first African American artist to win that. And John Howard won the Delta Show in 1934. They wouldn't give it to him when they found out he was black. He did a painting called A Letter to Picasso from a black woman.
So you mentioned these awards and distinctions. Is it curious that a group of folk who are largely I'm talking about artists, the stereotype of artists is that they're just for the good. They're, why do they care about the awards? I noticed there's a hierarchy within the art community, or is there a hierarchy in the art community around awards and grants and what have you that distinguish you? I noticed there's a lot of popularity with artists based on that. Sometimes they'll even talk more about that than the work itself. Why is that important?
It's Chris Rock would say yes. Okay. Yes. It's Chris Rock would say yes. Because think about you win a MacArthur or you win a Genius Grant, you got a wait list for the rest of your life. I mean the grants. Okay, example, winning the awards, getting the Brendan and Larry Thompson Award, I got several phone calls after that. Winning the Working Artist Grant, I got several phone calls. I got a number of phone calls after that. I even got an article in Forbes magazine that led to at least 18 pieces being purchased because I was in from Forbes magazine.
So is it the money or the recognition?
Oh, it's both of them.
Okay. Lillian, what are you most proud of about your career so far?
To be able to expand what I've been doing and live off of it and be able to maintain the lifestyle that I want, like self-care, or finally be able to focus on myself and balance out working and creating and seeing my work expand on a larger level in a public space too. Like that's been recent. That's something that I've always dreamed about. And having opportunities to just grow and experiment, and people pay you to do that. That's lovely.
What happens when you go back home?
When I go home
Yeah.
to the Bahamas, I haven't been.
I mean, in terms of recognition, are they aware that a
most
star
people,
is walking among them? And you are a star.
Oh, thank you.
It's true.
When I was home, before I came to college, most people know me as a painter, so they're still wondering why I have moved from painting into doing these textural things. So.
They were reading my notes. What's pushing you through that? Because I noticed there's a it feels like a transition, especially this last work that you're hanging up, that the light is coming through all of that.
Yeah.
How do you get from that piece there to these wonderful, I mean, that's wonderful too, but this seems to be a bit of a transition.
Yeah,
What's moving
okay,
you? What's bringing you to that place?
Actually, after I finished that, I had gotten I got a call from Amtrak, and she said a company called McKinsey and Company. They wanted me to create a piece over a stairway, and I was like, how am I gonna do this? Like, so I'm even thinking like, how am I gonna hang canvases up from the ceiling? But they have a view of the skyline, and I had to think of a way of translating what I do, because I like it in a way that's transparent enough, light enough, so it wouldn't fall from the ceiling. So I had to think about my materials in a different way, and I'm glad that I did, because I discovered things like acrylic, security mirror that you could see through, interrogation mirror. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing stuff. So, so I cut it down into, I cut it down small in a patchwork way, and even wood that I still have the wood that I work on, but I'm drilling holes in them and wiring them together.
At your height,
so
you kind of
that-
climb. You have to climb up these things, right?
No,
to get to them?
I work modular style, so I work in sections, and then on site I would wire them together. So it could be 30-some feet long, but it's made up of panel sections. And it's light enough for me to be able to move it, and so I love the transparency that I get with a lot of the materials. It feels kind of stained glass when the light comes through it. I get the reflection with the mirrors, and it moves like fabric. And I just love the way how that has pushed the work and the possibilities of where I could take it.
You mean it's engineered to move?
I'm thinking about that now. So I'm thinking about
Like
mobiles,
a chime?
like Alexander called them mobiles, like
Okay.
you know, the kinetic art
Like
where
the
it
shoulders
could,
left high? The shoulder was up high, okay.
yeah. So having it be able to, you know, some things that only take a little bit of movement, but then it could continue to move. I want to learn how to create an armature that I can hang the work from, so that it could constantly move with just a little bit of movement. Like, yeah, like not motorized,
Right.
but I want it to move so it has that Junkanoo feel. That's the thing we have in the Bahamas. We use lots of mirrors, and so it's very glitzy. You want it to, so using the mirrors, and it's nice on
How
a
will
flat
it
surface.
move though, if there's no, what's the movement? What's going to move it?
Well, the way how it's wired together, it's like
Right.
fabric, so it.
I'm coming to you, wait your turn.
But no, I'm just saying, there's several ways you can do it.
Yeah, so right now it's flat, and I'm like it could curve, but I'm thinking of ways where I'm spiraling. I have to work on I have a commission for Coda in Midtown over an escalator, so I'm thinking of it going over the escalator, but maybe I don't want to have it flat because I don't want dust to fall on it as much, so more like spirals and turns, and it coming up, like moving up the escalator. It's still about hands high, so you wouldn't be able to touch it.
What's the
but-
dimension of that?
Oh man, I don't know. It's gonna
You'll
be
know
huge.
when you get there, right?
Yeah, I haven't figured out the exact measurements yet, but I'll probably work in like 4x8 module styles, and then keep adding
okay.
to it.
That's taller than me.
Yeah. So I mean, I need to be able to work. I work flat on a table, so I want to be able to. The 4x8 size, I could work around the table. I could fit about 6 of them in my studio, so I can work at all of them at the same time.
Congratulations. What are you most proud of about your career?
I would say
A high point.
doing the 15-story mural for the Olympics and never touching the wall. How many artists can say they never touched the wall, but you do a 15-story mural?
How that?
Ancient black man's secret. And the world saw that I included my students, I included people from the community. So that's my high point. But to tell you about, look at John T. Scott and George and Ricky. They did kinetic sculptures.
Kevin, right now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
He's
You
a-
gotta
Yeah, see,
remind me again.
Yeah, remind me. I'm working on it.
Just say, you gotta say it, that's why.
Hello, that's what I'm talking about.
I think all of us are a bundle of complexity in our humanity. Do you think that there's an added layer for an artist? Are artists special?
Yes.
In what way?
A lot because my mom, for me, the way I got in there, I was telling somebody, I was talking to a group of students, I have a speech impediment and I stutter. My mom thing was go make mama a picture. That was her thing. Whenever I would come home, have a bad day, go make mama a picture. She made me realize I was special because I could do something that other people could not do. And my fourth grade teacher, Miss Bradshaw, told me the same thing. Every time I would do a project, she would say, "Kevin, yours got to be better than everybody else's."
Why?
Because of the fact that you got the artistic talent and you have the intellectual ability too.
But what is an artist's gift to the world? What do?
They make art.
And?
They make art, and then people appreciate the art.
Go on.
I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm just saying that's what artists do.
I mean, it feels like an obvious question, but I'm trying to get you to expand upon, an idea. If in fact they're different, I know that artists are different. I'm amazed at some of the things that come out. I mean, to have this woman sit here talk about this huge piece that's in her mind that we'll one day see. I think that's special. So I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. What is special about an artist for you? I mean, we're all special as humans, but artists carry something. There's something unique unto an artist. What would that be if you had to answer that?
I think I have a unique opportunity to develop something that's uniquely to myself, that isn't influenced so much by I kind of exclude myself a lot from what's going on in the world. I don't really soak up a lot of TV or anything, so I'm working on my art a lot, and I feel like I am expanding a visual language that I've started from a child. I was very shy. I didn't really interact with a lot of kids, so to entertain myself, I would color. I would get coloring books, and my favorite thing is because I was shy and to interact with other people, my favorite thing was to have them lay next to me, and you color one side, I color one side, and that's a way of opening up. And I couldn't talk to people.
So it became an aid for you?
Yeah, and to this day, I still feel like I use that as a way of opening up. Like I want people to love what I do and get to open it. Like it's a what do you call it? Icebreaker type of thing. So yeah, I feel like I get to push something that's it's a language that I feel like I'm expanding and using just the elements and principles of design in a way that is unique to me.
So it is a language.
I think so. But it's rooted in, like, I love Lucasa memory boards. I love their, like, the rituals, the costuming. I love Congo, Ninkisi. I love, there's so many visual traditions that are rooted in something that I feel connected to. But I could just learn through the books like coffee table books, and go into museums. I went to the Musée des Armées as a student at SCAD in the study abroad program, and the first time seeing the African sculpture, the textiles, Egungun costumes, Ninkisi, and it blew my mind. I just couldn't figure it out why, but it seemed like it was so much patina in it. It had something that I know had a lot to do with the spirit. But I didn't feel that connection so much when I was in the Louvre. I love the frames. I mean, I know that there are nobility and the prestige is very prestigious, but I felt connected to the picture frames actually. And I
But that's
collect
our-
picture frames.
It's part of the composition, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to be self-exalted, but I collect frames because frames for me are about capturing memories. It's the loss of memory, the loss of the stuff that I could have had with my mom, with my, if my mom didn't die in childbirth with me, you know, like that, and it's also the potential of what could be made. So I'm using things that, like the button, the PVC pipe, the mirrors, picture frames, in a way that is graphic and textural. That is similar to the way how maybe the Ndebele, would wear something, or maybe safety pins in a way of, as an embellishment, you know, but it's.
So you're entering frames as part of your composition, or the framing aspect, because it may not even be a physical frame, it may be
Yeah, I'm
something
thinking
else.
I like circles, rectangles, ovals are for me very picture frame-like in a way too. So this to me feels like the Middle Passage. The Africa is on that side, the New World is on this side. So I think we're carrying a lot of memories from Africa here, but some of it doesn't go all the way. You know, like we are still trying to figure it out.
Kevin, what I notice narrative is prominent in in terms of just the titling alone of the pieces that you work with. Talk to us about that, the significance of narrative in your composition.
Well, even though the tragedy of being lynched, all my titles are positive titles because we come a long ways, okay? And every piece I do or every medium I use is a part of my experience. Like, for example, the pieces I do out of wood I'm bending wood. I'm one of the few artists in the country that's bending wood. If you ask me how I do it, I'm gonna tell you again, ancient black man's secret. Okay.
You tell me.
So,
Is it that complicated?
Oh, it's
is it
complicated.
that unique?
yes, it is. I mean,
That
when
a
you,
person with a similar piece of wood couldn't bend it the way.
I get
It's a
calls.
special wood.
I get calls from all over the country on how are you bending it where it stays, or are you able to do the flexibility of it. But then I use
But
aluminum.
don't leave the narrative though, the storytelling part. Because I'm wondering if what is the composition without the storytelling?
Can I get to it? Okay. Give me a minute. So I'm getting there because
Now don't be sensitive.
I'm not being sensitive. I'm just saying, give me time to give me time to get to it.
I'm trying to, some of
because
this is like a southern preacher, you got to keep them going because they're supposed to hurry on to their close, but somehow you're an hour later on. So preacher, come on to your close now. We're trying to get back to the narrative.
But the narrative have a lot to do with every medium I use.
I know, but can I start over? Let me just
Go
start
ahead.
since I want to be clear.
Good.
How does that aid the composition? What is the composition without that narrative?
They go hand in hand.
Okay.
I mean, you can't dismiss it because when I talk about music, you got to go into the part. My grandmother owned the club in Twist, Arkansas. B.B. King gave his guitar her name.
What did he give him?
Hold on, let me
What was it?
My grandmother
No,
owned the
said
club.
an instrument.
Well, B.B. King gave his guitar. His guitar.
Killer.
His guitar.
We're both from Pine Bluff,
but,
so
yeah.
everything when he's
Yeah.
playing with them, I'm like, you're killing me, bro. You're taking me back to the house.
So When there was a lady who started a fight in her club, her name was Lucille.
Right.
And that's how B.B. King got his name. So we used to listen, I'm sorry, that's how his guitar got the name. So the narrative of me listening to music is a major part of it. I worked to music, okay? It's a major part, it's a major part of all of it. So the narrative, everything comes together with the narrative, using a common motif and using everything from my environment. Like a part of the new pieces, they are based on the process of mapping. I started mapping the path of the storm when I had frat brothers from New Orleans coming back and forth. And I started to talk to people about what they were going through at that time. So I started looking at the map. Where did the storm first start? Okay, using the process of the technique of mapping. And I started to bring the neckties and scarf shapes in between there. I started using scarf shapes in 1995. I did a visiting artist at the Des Moines Arts Center, at this group of young people, naming one major African-American female that made major contributions to America. Only one that they can name was Oprah Winfrey. So they did research on Katherine Dunham, Billie Holiday, and I created these time capsules that I put their research papers in. The series was entitled For the Sisters Who Carry the Burdens of Other Sisters. So that were these scrolls that started to occupy. So everything leads to something else with the same narrative. And when you see a Kevin Cole, you'll see I add something else to it, and something else to it, and add something else to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel you were heard? Kevin and I are from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, sidebar.
Yeah.
His mother, Ms. Cole, managed our little cafeteria at our elementary school. And she's such a wonderful person because, you know, we were all, the whole school got free lunch because we were in that situation economically. And she just made it clear, like, no, don't bother these kids. They all get free. Come on, baby. You can just come on through here and get the food kind of thing. So she's very famous, and it's always been a great, I mean, it's, there's the full disclosure, we got history, you know? Yeah. I'm still trying to help him out. Is the narrative seductive, Lillian, to the work?
You know, I wanna bring you in on not so much on the subject matter I want you to just be drawn to it based on the elements and principles of design first. I want to pull you, like if you look at each piece, the colors are like color field paintings. But I want to pull you in, with the texture, and then when you come in and you see the texture, you start to see with the objects and the imagery, and then you start to think about what they are and how they relate to each other. But I don't want that to be the dominant factor. I still feel like I'm a painter, that an abstract expressionist painter.
Is there such a thing as good or bad art to you?
Yes. As an educator, yes. And you see bad art. And I think that as an educator, you see students come in, or you see, you know, I retired, so I hear from a lot of artists that, you know, they want mentorship and they want you to critique their work. I always use the method of positive critique, and if I tell you there's something that you may want to think about, I'm gonna give you a list of artists to look at that could help you improve your work. But there is a lot of bad art out there. I mean,
Who's to say? The other part of that is, simply because someone has letters, should they be the arbiter of what is good and what is bad?
Well, like she said, it's based on the elements of principle of design. You can see what's good. You can see good composition, good form. I mean, you can see that. and you meet students that come in, and you know, I love the internet, I love social media, and you get collected to say, well, you know, I bought this piece. They say I bought it because they like it, but does it mean
That's not enough.
well, it's good enough for them. I went to a person's house and I was like, you know, oh boy. You know?
But so, for instance, and I promise, I want you to trust me that I'm not testing you here,
Yeah.
but I want to understand deeply what you're saying. Like, for instance, this is your piece right here. Do you have examples? Maybe you don't, and I don't want to press you on this, but of great composition. What are the elements? What elements might I observe when I'm journeying through this piece that has me know that those elements of design are there?
Well, you look at color, you look at form, you look at shape, you look at the overall form. You know, when you look at form, it could be either three-dimensional, or it could be two-dimensional in terms of the shape. You look at the overall composition, how the composition feels. Is there a underlying dimension of underlying geometry in the work? Okay,
Yeah.
and then you look at that.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, a lot of us, in terms of abstract painting, we use geometry where we cross off the painting and we deal with it in sections. Okay, I don't know.
Like
I don't know if I have enough
line.
time to explain all that. But,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just briefly. I'm just
Yeah.
well, okay.
That's
There's a
fine.
book. There's a book.
It needs to feel balanced.
Balance. Yeah.
Balance. Okay.
Yeah.
So balance is
Balance-
what you're talking about.
Balance, and there are several
So,
books.
is it possible to show us where the balance is here
Well,
for those of us?
When you look at
And I really don't know the answer to this question because I'm self-taught, and I just won't take a class because I don't want to be responsible.
well, if you look
lines.
at the lines,
Guiding
well, I
you.
started with the diagonal and the angle. I know where I want the flag to be. I know where I want your eyes to go.
Where do you want my eyes to
I go,
go?
number one, when you first look at it, I think your eyes go here.
To the flag?
You know, down here.
To-
Then it bounces up, and
then
then you
it
have
pops up.
this person in contour, and you read from space to space. But yet, when you look at this piece here, your eye primarily go toward the sign. That's where I wanted to
But
go.
then the people are bringing you back to the
Right, and so then you got the working book. But I want to deal with a lot of symbolism where you ask yourself questions: why is this piece? Why is this image there? And you look at it's funny because there were a few people noticed. They said, well, this looked like a white family. That little boy skipping, you know, you got it here, but then you got a silhouette of a family here, where you don't really see it, but it's there. But I found that a lot of people, they go straight to this. Well, a lot of students. So I have a piece in City Hall on the 5th floor, which is 7 feet by 18 feet, called the daily agenda that address issues that the mayor should be concerned about. Is based on this same series called Signs of the Times. But I think that, but yes, as an educator, there's some bad art out there. But it's also based on, I see people say, well, I like this. And it's nothing wrong with that. That's what they like, that's what they buy. But when you look at the idea of collecting, I taught a class that's scared called The Business of Art, and I taught students how to get into art galleries, how to get public art commission, and as well as collecting art. What do you look for?
Okay.
I think execution and the construction of the work too, how you use the materials,
Yeah.
that's very important too. Yeah, so.
Okay. Kevin, you've advocated for athletes and entertainers to buy work,
Right.
to buy your work. Why is that important?
I wouldn't say I advocated. I just I ended up meeting Daryl Walker, who's my frat brother, and when he first started buying art, I educated him on a number of artists he should look at, because I've been collecting art since I was 19 years old. I started trading with my classmates. So for me, getting him to read books, and so then he got Michael Jordan, Bernard King, a lot of those guys to actually buy my work. But I was educating him about buying, and some people say you buy what you like. I buy as an investment, and I buy what I like.
But so the answer is no to the athletes and entertainers?
I didn't go after them. I just went. I went with Daryl, and they came to me because Daryl bought a number of my pieces. I mean, I was more going toward public art. You know, I have a piece in the airport. I was complaining one year about me not having a piece somewhere, and somebody did research and found out I had more pieces, public art pieces in Atlanta than any other artist. I was crying about something else.
Well, I heard you said this, we were at Clark, and you said they don't buy art, they buy cars, they do this, that kind of thing, and I was wondering.
I didn't say all of them. I said some of them.
I know you couldn't have been all of them because you got a lot of, including myself, we own pieces of your artwork. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was just curious to know where you came down on that. On originality, after thousands of years of humanity, is there such a thing as a new thing? Is somebody doing something that's never been done before? Or is it just simply their variation of an old tale?
I think it's building on what's been done before. But I mean, we have new materials, we have different ways of doing things. So yeah, it's always going to be, the work is always going to expand and grow. Like when acrylic came around after oils, you know, that's changed the work a lot from being just flat to being able to, because it dry faster, it's you're able to do more collaging and building up on the surface. So now I think people are embracing more texture and going beyond the canvas, and in a way that I feel like I'm using things like light, reflection, transparency, movement, and that cross blending all of the art fields. So you have mixtures of painting, sculpture, textile, like everything's merged with, so whatever you want to use. There's no set way of doing anything. It's however you want to express what you want to express. And I think that's where we're at right now, being able to creatively express the way you want to, what you want to express in so many options that you have available to you, and ways of displaying it too. Yeah.
100 years from now, what are they saying about your work?
Oh, wow. I can't really say, but I think
Well,
that.
of course you can't say.
I mean, but I think
it's the truth anyway, you know.
I think with a history, if I look at it in history, and I was talking to Sam Gillian, who's one of my mentors, and he asked me, he said, how would you like to be remembered?
And that's my question as
Okay, well, when I was painting the mural for the Olympics, the late Maynard Jackson, before you painted that portrait, you dealt with a series of questions. And he said something to me that stayed on my mind. He said he lived by a poem by Margaret Walker that said, "If I died, would it matter if I was ever born?" That's my answer. If I die, I'm sorry. When I die, would it matter if I was ever born? When I die, would it matter if I was ever born?
Would you expand on that a little bit, please? I'm not sure if
As an
I know what I
artist,
heard, but I want to understand it through the way you're looking at it.
as an artist and educator, one of the few high school art teachers was able to balance my career and stay in high school, teach high school, continue to do my work, and show as a professional artist is one that is really hard to do. I hear from a lot of young artists that thought, even though I taught at Georgia State, I taught at SCAD part-time, they assumed I was there full time. But because high school takes up so much time, a lot of artists just say, you know, forget it, I'm just going to teach. And to be able to balance my career in terms of winning awards as an educator, National Secondary Art Educator of the Year, I taught at 4 different schools. I was Teacher of the Year, then Turner Broadcasting System Super Teacher of the Year, and then winning awards in art, winning art competitions. That's the way I hope to be remembered as an artist, but not only an artist, but an educator too. Whereas I started 2 magnet programs with 94% of my kids attending college on scholarships. In the AP program, 100% pass rate with the College Board.
Lillian, what's your legacy?
Well, I've always wanted to be an artist. So I know as a safety net, my mom and family thought that I should teach first. And so when I entered the College of the Bahamas, I was one of the only art majors. Everybody else was art education. And I said, somebody have to be the artist. So I feel like I believe that I could do it. Even though I have taught sometimes, I've just been a full-time artist since 2016. So it does take a lot to believe that you're gonna be able to survive and create work, sell it, and be able to continually do that without the guarantee of having a check come in on a steady basis. So I want to be able to be known for even though I was teaching too, I was still working on my art. And my daughter, she's about to graduate from college now. Yeah, she's studying, she's graduating in April. And I feel like, as I graduated from Georgia State and got my MFA in painting, I was pregnant with her. So it's 21 years now, and so I feel like I'm just now beginning for like really full time without having to do like more motherly things. So I don't regret it. I still push through, and now I feel like I'm full force. I have 3 studios. I have a studio at home, I have a studio in the West End, and I have a studio in Midtown. One dedicated just for my hangings for public art, and one for my works like this or whatever I want. And then when I'm home, I work in my basement too. So I'm always working. So I'm excited about where it's going, and I want to be known for being able to push what I've done and still have a consistent, something that's consistent from the beginning to now. And as far as like color, I like the same colorings that I was influenced by Minnie Evans at first. She colored the whole page of these with the crayons, and so I used to push the crayons on in the coloring book, and I would take wax paper and put on the surface and iron it so it'll give you that oil. So I was happy. I was organized my 64 pack of crayons in color order. And I had, I was always organized, and I feel like.
And you still are. I envy the organization of your studio. I just can't believe you got everything. I don't know where anything is. I'm just like, it's in here. I just go to the store and buy another one.
I love organizing. That's part of the planning. Just working on the art is like organizing too. So in order to find things easily.
I try to remember where I put stuff, even my socks.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I work in series, okay? And working in series, and then I have 3 assistants. And like Lillian, unfortunately, I got 3 studios on 4 acres of land. And working in series allows me to decide on, like you said, which studio that you want to work in. And working in series allows you to look at, okay, like for instance, this is 1980 to 89. I would say the most recent pieces are the ballet boxes and the other piece on the other side of the wall, the constructions. And I went from there to those, because I always wanted to, I bridge the gap between painting and sculpture. So I said I wanted to do painted sculptures until I read an article by Ed Reinhardt that said sculpture is something you back into while you're looking at a painting. and I teach my friends who are sculptors, and now I'm doing sculptures as well. But for me, that little part leads to another painting, and she'll tell you one work going to lead you to another work.
Yeah.
And it's just not one piece for me, but it just going and leading into
Like you
something.
learn
Yeah.
from one piece
Yes.
and like, oh, I like, but there are some things you leave behind, and then there are some things that you
take
wanna,
forward.
so.
The sermons is where I get a lot of my titles from. My titles are normally about faith, hope, dreams, and things of that nature. And then I'm trying to encourage, like, you notice I post my collection, because going through houses and people think about what they're going to wear, they think about what they're going to drive, but they never think about what they're putting on their walls. And I get, when you're invited to somebody's home and you're trying to say, oh Lord, how can I tell them that this is garbage? Because they buy posters and they frame them, thinking that they got original print, and nobody's telling them that this is there are 900 of these out there, and I mean and put a gold frame around it.
I'm a peasant. If I like it, it's going up. I'm sorry.
Well, I always tell people that when you start off strong, with Kahinde and Derek Adams, I knew both of them personally, and we happen to own Kahinde. And I just met Derek, and I was in a show. But I just think that I tell people, buy what you like. But at the same time, our focus is artists who are educators, or who were educators, okay? And that's our focus. And we have a combination of African American artists and white artists, because as an artist, I'm able to trade. And we also collect a lot of women artists. We have a collection, we have a room that is by women or about women. But I always say buy what you like, but I buy at least 2 pieces from an artist. I buy one I'm gonna keep, I buy one I may sell or give to my kids. And I do it as an investment too. I'm sorry.
Who are you excited about right now? If a budget unknown. I mean, if price is not an issue, who are you buying right now? Perhaps as a maybe. Yeah.
Artists I like Leonardo Drew.
Yeah.
Jack Whitten.
Mm-hmm. And
Ella
just
Knoxley.
briefly, what's exciting you about them?
I like the way how they're pushing the materials in their work, and I like Leonardo Drew, like he's really coming off of the surface with the materials and experimenting with texture. I like Ella Knoxley. Yeah. Mark Bradford. Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting him.
If you're interested in seeing that work, he's up there with one of my artists, Jamel Wright, who's a textile artist, so you should go by and see that show. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
If price is not an object for you, who are you buying right now?
Ooh, Lord.
One. I think he's.
I would get a Frank Bowling, like she said, Jack Whitten. There's a video that's out that's called something.
Would you repeat the name again?
Jack Whitten.
No, Bowling.
Frank Bowling.
Paint with a broom.
And then, but there's
He's
a video.
an elder as well.
Yeah, these are elders, because these are black abstract artists who are just now getting their due.
Yeah.
William, there's a video. The show was entitled "Something to Look Forward to," and I went to the show, but there is a video out on it. It's called Perspective. I would get a John T. Scott out of New Orleans. He won a MacArthur, a Genius Grant, and we have several of his pieces, but I would get one of his kinetic sculptures I was telling you about.
Okay.
Yes. Those
What is a kinetic?
the kinetic sculpture, it moves.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Without any motor.
Right.
Oh, okay. I think we're about at the end of the road here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you,
Thank you for
Kevin,
coming.
Lillian. It's been a blast. And Kevin and I act up like this all the time, so don't be distracted.
No, he acts up. I don't act up.
I'm trying.
I'm a Christian. In construction, okay?
No, thank you, Kevin, Lillian, and Joe, so much. Thank you all for coming for this artist talk, and we appreciate you. And if you get a moment, go outside around the corner and you'll see the three-dimensional sculptural piece that Kevin did. It's spectacular. Talk about that piece just briefly. I think it's so beautiful, and I like the meaning behind the piece.
The piece is by the late Robert Reed, who was the lone professor at Yale University for over 40 years. He was the only lone black professor, and it's done in the process of mapping where we first met, and we were represented by the McIntosh Gallery, and it's bent wood, and that's the direction that the piece is headed with. Anyway, that piece.
And to ensure you a real peaceful, sweet ride home, introduce Karen, please.
Yeah, well, this is my wife. Okay, this is my wife. My wife, and I always tell a story that we went to an exhibition I had when I first met her, and Sam Gilliam, I won a prize. He said there was two things that you need to do. You need to paint big and marry this woman, and that's what I did.
Thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you.
That was a blast. If you enjoyed yourself, tell everybody about it. And like I always say, if you didn't like it, keep it to yourself. Nobody likes a gossip.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. All right.